And it seriously does not help that social media in the modern day has made artists' deaths even more lucrative. As one Nielsen executive had stated in 2016, if Earth, Wind & Fire's Maurice White passed away 10 years ago, you might have read about it in a paper and then waited until there was a store open, he said. Now the news cycle travels extremely fast, and you get more awareness. The instant gratification is there. You can buy it or stream it, and it magnifies the consumption. Now, instant gratification is definitely an interesting word choice from this Nielsen executive, especially considering some of his other comments in the same article. This was different from other years, Dave Bakula, Nielsen Senior Vice President of Industry Insights, told The Post. The news cycle is very viral. I've never seen a year like this before. The number of big-name artists passing away. The music industry is getting an extra boost from the celebration, he added. Notice that the author of the article here had to add this for context. But obviously I am nitpicking a bit. All of you probably know what this executive is talking about. Whenever an artist passes away, everyone comes out to show their respects on social media. And this effect has an uncanny ability to run up sales numbers. While in recent history it's been labeled the Prince effect, we have known for quite some time that an artist passing can be lucrative. But just how lucrative it is, we are just now getting to measure the effects more closely in the modern day. One paper titled Music, Death, and Profits lays this all out for us. Notably, this was the first study of its kind to show the long-term effects of this phenomenon. In their study that monitored 81 artists who passed away from 2015 to 2017, they found something pretty disturbing. Our findings show that a rate of sales does not return to pre-death levels, but instead is in most instances persistently higher even several years after the death shock occurs. Album sales leapt a staggering 226% on average, just on the day the artist died, and they doubled overall on average for the first 100 days. For bigger artists like Prince, the effect was even more pronounced, as he saw a 16,000% increase, while other large artists saw very staggering numbers as well. Furthermore, looking at the album sales for other rappers who have died young, we see that almost all of them see commercial success they never saw in their own lifetime. As if the financial incentives weren't already way too far in the wrong direction, this actually gets a hell of a lot worse. Because there's a clause in record contracts that allows record labels to cash in even more after an artist passing. This has been going on since the early days of the music industry, and it's quite literally a standard practice. It's called the death clause, or the non-performance clause. Now, this is one of those lesser-known details in regards to record contracts, but the former manager of the Grateful Dead, Hank Harrison, wrote about this some years back. Essentially, it goes something like this. Companies shall have the right to secure insurance equivalent to 10 times the estimated value of the artist's earnings from any source of revenue for company's sole benefit. Companies shall be allowed to employ any insurance carrier or combination of the same to assure this benefit and need not consult or require signature compliance from the artist. Company shall keep such information confidential, except that the company may disclose information to the applicable insurance carriers or as required by law. Artist or artist's estate shall have no right to review or claim the benefit of any such policy obtained by the company. And to quote what Hank Harrison later wrote in this article, he states, "In short, here is what a death clause does in my humble opinion. If an artist fails to perform or pay back advances, the artist becomes more profitable dead. Today, the hit clause still exists, but it is more subtle, and whereas it used to be worth thousands, it's now potentially worth billions. Labels invest millions in new talent, and the insurance policy is a protection against loss or a way of collecting projected profits for music, t-shirts, books, foreign rights, and everything else in all forms." Now, I want to clarify one thing here about the death clause. And it's that this type of life insurance, also known as key man insurance, is actually a standard practice in other industries as well. And depending on how you look at this, it's honestly just a smart business move given how much money they invested into them in the first place. But normally when an employee dies in other industries, there is a pretty significant loss of revenue, and this insurance is designed to make it so the company can stay afloat until they find a replacement. But in the music industry, this is just them double dipping. Now, in case you're unfamiliar, record deals are structured like a loan. also known as an advance. A certain amount the artist gets to keep for living expenses, and the rest will usually get poured into the cost of making an album as well as marketing it. While the specifics will vary from deal to deal, the premise is pretty much the same across the board. Only after the label is paid back in full will the artist receive any royalties on the music recorded during that time. And assuming all goes well with the contract, the process will repeat with a new contract and new debt. If they don't succeed though, or paying back the label is taking too long, or the artist is trying to get out of the deal, then the death clause conveniently helps the label collect. What's more, as bad of a reputation as record labels may have, they aren't the only ones with perverse incentives. The artist also has to consider that his own loved ones might be out to get him as well, assuming any family members may be included in their will. And if that wasn't bad enough, it has become a far more common practice for artists nowadays to sell parts of their recording catalog on brokerage sites like Royalty Exchange. And I'm just going to flat out say this right now, it's only a matter of time before something bad happens with one of these Royalty Exchange platforms. As one article from MarketWatch stated, buy some of the rights to a rock star's music and you're likely to see a big bump in your royalties if he or she dies suddenly. It creates some awkward incentives. Don't be surprised if this turns up as the plot to a Hollywood thriller sometime soon.
A truth teller to getting off social media when he thought decisions had happened that were unjust. Just an incredible human that I will remain grateful forever for having had the opportunity to work with.
Yeah, such a shame that he died.
Incredible.
Opioids bad.
Yeah, I mean, the system is broken. System is broken.
And all his masters are coming out now. No will. So all these
masters were out. So we got his masters really through his leadership many years ago. So what that meant is then he owned the rights to his own music.
Yeah.
So now what's happening is they're releasing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Should they release it? Didn't he want to not release it? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think he was a perfectionist. And just was very clear. He also had very strong beliefs about treating women appropriately, not using profanity.
Yeah.
And so, but he didn't have a will. And I think I don't think anything he did,
Maybe he didn't have the will to just let it.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
I think the thing that makes me, the only happiness I think you can have when you love someone, you lose someone you love that much, is to see the way the world has responded to recognizing what a genius he was.
That was Phaedra's responsibility to make sure that he was okay. Anybody in that position with Kieran, before me, she that was her responsibility. We all had that responsibility.
Okay,
this is a world-renowned artist.
So Kieran, and then it was you, and then it was Phaedra.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah. Okay. Now, while I was there, Phaedra was the businessman, quote-unquote business manager. There's just some suspicions in terms of the money aspect of it and what she did with a lot of the money, because on several occasions she would say, pay this to a person, and she would just disregard it and wouldn't pay it, and she even stopped paying the band what the band was used to making. And it's like, this is what this man pays them, and anytime anyone would bring up pay, he'd stop them and say, do not talk to me about pay, ever. Talk to Theo and Phaedra. And so when I would tell Phaedra, because she had the bank account, she'd say, I'm not paying that. No. They're making too much money. So, it's like, this man, it's his money. Why are you not doing what he says to do? And then, where's the publishing money? She hired these people to recoup publishing money, but where's that money going? And she would always tell him, well, we have $1 million in taxes, so the publishing money is going to taxes. And he'd get mad and say, well, you told me that last month and the month before, and you said that was the last payment. Oh, no, we just had one more, and so you'll be seeing the publishing money after that. And no publishing money ever surfaced. So it's like, where does this money go?
And let me try to understand if I'm saying this right, but when he got out of the contract with Universal, they were managing his royalties, correct?
Yeah.
And then Phaedra got him out of that contract, and that's what you're trying to tell me is that he was no longer getting the royalties from Phaedra, and she was saying that she was paying taxes.
Well, out of that contract, the contract ceased with Warner as well. He still had another quarter. What happens with Universal is, even though you end the term, they still have to recoup for like 1 or 2 other quarters. So, but with owning his masters, he now has the right to exploit that any way he wants. So we hired a team of people who would go out and exploit the masters to bring in money from the masters. And so that's part of the money. And then the other money was the money coming in from Universal. And after Universal, those people that were hired were supposed to now collect. It was supposed to come into NPG. So that money as well. And that's the publishing money and the royalties that we never really saw, because she would say, it's $1 million tax bill, so that's what we're going to use to pay this with. And then the next month it would be another $1 million tax bill. So it just went on, and we're like, where is this money?
And did she say specifically that the missing money or that had anything to do with the royalties or anything, or she didn't know? Or she just kind of asking?
I think she was just asking questions. She was just saying that there was some money that, I guess in their investigation, I don't know, but there was a huge amount of missing money, or money not accounted for that, they wanted to know what happened to it.
That's kind of without me understanding the whole music business, but that is what I kind of was under the impression that Prince had one of the largest music catalogs in history, and that he was getting all these royalties, and that when Phaedra took over and got him out of his music contracts, that they no longer were his publishers, that she had some different accounts that they had opened, possibly.
Right. Well, she did. She opened the NPG Music and Publishing account. I think it was called Music and Publishing. Yeah, but she did open accounts. Money went into that account, and she was supposed to pay bills from that account. Well, I know that she didn't always pay people. For instance, she said to give $100,000 to the company that was making a movie on, or Hendrix, that's what it was, Hendrix, Jimi Hendrix, and so she said, I'm not doing that. She wouldn't give that money, and he said to let them know that there was more if they needed, but she didn't do that. So it's, he entrusted her with this account, but she didn't always do what she was supposed to with it.
Okay, and that's the NPG Music and Publishing account?
Yes.
Do you know of any other accounts that she might have had?
I don't, but I know that for sure she had that one. She could have easily created others. This is in dealing with Phaedra and her needing some information from someone who wouldn't give her that information. She would say, I'll just hack into their computer. And I went once, I said, oh, really? She said, yeah, I live in Silicon Valley area, and yeah, I have people who can do that. And without saying her name, when my my email was hacked into, Prince basically told me that, she was the one who did it, because he just needed to make sure that everyone who's close to him is properly vetted. So he basically, without saying she was the one who did it, he basically said she did it. She was the one who did it. So I wouldn't be alarmed and go to the authorities, because that's what I was saying at that point. Well, I'm going to take this to the authorities. So he told me that so that I wouldn't go to the authorities.
Okay, so was she going into your email after you resigned?
No. This was far long before. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She didn't find anything, so she could have just asked,
right,
and I would have given her my password. I don't have anything to hide, and that's But I think with her, she was painting a picture, because what Phaedra does is when she goes into organizations, she wants people around her who she knows specifically and who she can control. So I think what she had to do was plant doubt in Prince's mind about me, because she said at one meeting to some people that, I'm getting rid of Theo. I'm going to have Prince to fire him, and I'm going to bring Crystal back on board.